Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Fresh Out the Podcast, one of the greatest podcasts to ever grace the radio. I am the board game guru and game master extraordinaire, Johananan.
It's me, Casualty, CDG. I'm the co-host of Fresh Out the Podcast and Fresh Out the Box. If you like tabletop role-playing games, you should come check us out on Fresh Out the Box. Every Thursday and Friday, we have a TTRPG stream on YouTube. It's called Fresh Out the Box TTRPG. We got a little Facebook page. You can check that out. It's Fresh Out the Box TTRPG. You pretty much just type that in and you find us.
And I am Drew Munhausen, the professional media and movie mastermind. This is episode 117 of Fresh Out the Podcast. And I'm going to jump right into some things here because we have some interesting news that I think will be a good topic of conversation. Before I get into the big topic of the Xbox rumor mill, I saw there was an article about some Super Bowl trailers we're going to get this weekend. You know, this upcoming weekend is Super Bowl. And I saw that it looks like we're going to get our first looks at Deadpool 3 and Wicked and A Quiet Place Day 1, the Quiet Place prequel movie. We might also see some Inside Out 2, some Kingdom Planet of the Apes, which I believe was on Jahan's most anticipated list of the year. So
Yep.
some interesting trailers to look forward to. But I'd say Deadpool 3 for sure is the marquee trailer of those.
I believe that was also on my list. Yeah, those are both good ones.
If
The rest
you
of
would
them
have
are
told
kind
me
of meh.
to guess, if you would have told me to guess which trailers were going to be at the Super Bowl, I would have guessed a Fast and the Furious movie for sure.
Shockingly, not one coming out this year. I think I'm not sure when the Fast X 2 is coming out, or I guess it'll be Fast 11. However,
What are they
title
Are they
it.
doing Final Fantasy numbering now?
Well, the last one was Fast.
Mhm.
Yeah,
They
they've
have X,
alternated
yeah.
between numbers and Roman numerals. This most recent one is Fast X. But it left off literally like in the middle of an action scene
And
with a big cliffhanger. And so I believe the
For
next
anyone
one is
out there
still
who
just
doesn't
11.
speak Roman or know Roman, X is actually 10. I don't know if you guys knew that. It's the Roman 10.
Oh, is it now?
And they don't really teach Roman, you know? Yeah.
Well,
I just wanted to, for our audience, I didn't want them to feel excluded in
Alienated,
case they
yeah.
didn't know, if they didn't read and write in Roman. Yeah. And
Well,
the Super
there-
Bowl is Roman too, just while we're at it.
oh boy, it's gonna keep going.
And the World Heavyweight Championship is Roman also.
Undisputed. Oh boy.
Also,
well,
the width of
Anyways.
cart tires is dictated by the Roman road building. Never mind.
I really am trying to move along to the main topic here because there's a lot
Let's
to
do
encompass
this.
here, and we're just getting stuck on Roman numerals before the show even really
And
starts.
popes are Roman. Popes are named
Just-
with Roman names
Popes
and numerals.
Puns and Roman numerals and just this is we're really off the rails today. And full discretion, I told these guys before we started, I was like, my allergies are acting up. I'm a little stuffy. I might try to get through some of this fast, and we're just already just gonna stretch this out.
English
So it's
kings
happening.
also. English kings have Roman numeral names, like Henry the V111.
No, it's only when you write them out. You don't pronounce the letters.
Well, the Romans did.
Okay. What's going on, Drew?
Well, just let's move on because Gary, one thing that I like about doing this show with you is I feel like you genuinely do rely on Jahan and myself to kind of provide you with some of the news and insights and things going on, and I'm curious to hear from you with all of the kind of recent Xbox outcry that's been happening mostly today, actually, some yesterday, mostly today. What are you aware of right now in the world of Xbox, Gary?
All right. So like you said, I really don't keep my finger to the pulse, but I'm in the communities and stuff on Reddit, right? So if there's outrage or if there's something really big, then I'll get wind of it. So first, let me say this is what I have heard, not what I know to be factual. I've heard, first off, a pretty strong theory that Xbox games will be going, exclusives will be on PlayStation available at some point, not immediately, but in the future. So PlayStation would get Starfield and Halo and things like that. That's the first rumor that I've heard, and it's a strong rumor. The second rumor that I heard, which seems a little more off base, but rumors be rumors, is that Xbox might get out of the console altogether. And this may be them going to software only and basically doing what the Dreamcast did. It's just taken them 3 generations to do it.
Yeah, these are for sure in the rumor mill. Jahan, how about you? Is this kind of what your awareness level is as well, or have you looked into this a little bit more?
No, that's about what I've heard. I heard that they're gonna try to put Game Pass on Switch and PlayStation, and try to make their money that way. It's not a bad rumor. I mean, it's annoying, but
It depends on who you are. Yeah, it's been, if you go read the comments on the Xbox subreddit right now, it's quite entertaining. First off, you would think the sky is falling, absolutely. but I'll kind of start from the beginning with where some of these things started and kind of get to where we're at now. First off, there have been long rumors of Xbox and Nintendo potentially partnering on something in the future. There have been rumors of Game Pass potentially being on Nintendo consoles, but it's never been truly validated. All we really know is that Microsoft and Nintendo do seem to have a good working relationship.
A lot of that seemed to stem back to last summer during the Blizzard Activision merger talks. Right at the beginning of that, everybody was kind of pushing against it, and then at some point, Microsoft and Nintendo had a conversation where they came out shaking hands and on good terms about the future. We just don't really know what that meant at the time, but they've been friendly for at least a year about now.
And there have been games that were previously Xbox exclusive that they have brought to the Switch. Cuphead was one of them back in the day. The Ori games they've brought to Switch, and most recently there was another rumor that popped up that Hi-Fi Rush, which was a game that was kind of surprise dropped. A Bethesda developed game, surprise dropped on Game Pass earlier in 2023. And it was an exclusive because it was made by Bethesda. It was only on Xbox. And there are rumors now that Hi-Fi Rush is going to be coming to Switch in particular. So that was earlier in January. Then the big news came last night going into this morning that Microsoft is kind of evaluating their exclusive lineup, and the two big ones that are said to potentially be coming to other consoles are Starfield and the new Indiana Jones game. So both Bethesda games. And it sounds like, so first off, these are all rumors that are like being kind of basically being reported by like Xbox Era and like some pretty reputable Xbox sites, but they're saying they have inside information. People within Microsoft that have knowledge of the situation, but none of this has been officially announced by Xbox. But it's those two games in particular, and it's not even saying that with Indiana Jones specifically that it would be out at launch. It could be coming out after a few months of it already, having exclusivity on the Xbox. Also worth noting, these are games that were on Game Pass or will be on Game Pass day one. These games presumably would cost $70 in the PlayStation ecosystem if they go on there. So it's not like they're just, getting them on a subscription service there. I don't see what's so bad about this, personally, these rumors. Like, that sounds fine to me. Microsoft just spent $69 billion acquiring Activision Blizzard. It's clear that they don't have as strong of console sales as the PlayStation consoles. They do, I think, pretty well here in the US, but not as well overseas. That being said, yeah, if you want to put those games on PlayStation and charge full price for them, I really don't see a problem. But I think it's causing a meltdown within a lot of Xbox players who are already feeling like they're already envious of the exclusives on the PlayStation, and when they're finally going to get some big exclusives of their own, they're now potentially going to be on PlayStation. So I understand, like, you feel dedicated to your console, and then those things are multi-platform. But that's kind of.
This will be great if it is reciprocated, right? If PlayStation says, sure, we'll start to port some stuff over too, that would be great. I would still like to play, like, Death Stranding, and I think that's what it's called. And then
yes.
There's like there was the samurai game also that I wanted to play that I forgot the name of.
Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima.
Ghost of Tsushima, there you go. There were a couple of PlayStation games that I would love to play. And when we were growing up, PlayStation, they did the same thing. Grand Theft Auto would come out 9 months sooner on PlayStation. So it would come out for Xbox, but you didn't get to play it. You had to wait. And so to me, it just kind of harkens to that old era of, yeah, everybody should share games, but if it's a, quote, console exclusive, it just means it comes out sooner. I'm okay with that. The rumor I would be more worried about is if Xbox does get out of the console game, well, then I have to buy a PlayStation to play Xbox. And that seems like a stupid sentence.
Yeah, and that's where I think the rumor mill is getting a little out of control. The things that we know that there's some sort of real basis in are these certain games coming to other consoles. Now that has, of course, spiraled to fans saying, well, this is just the beginning of Xbox becoming, a huge publisher instead. And if they're going to be publishing their games on other platforms, and if in the future, it seems like they have all their eggs in the Game Pass basket, which we've kind of known that for a while, anyways, right? They're really pushing Game Pass. All their games are coming on there. A lot of their new release games that are on PC do still chart on Steam, so it's not like people aren't buying them on Steam. They sell on Steam, but they're also on Game Pass, and it really does seem like Microsoft wants Game Pass to be everywhere. And why wouldn't they, right? You want subscribers, that's just more income coming in. It makes sense. But it just seems like it has spiraled. Like what if all of a sudden it's just Game Pass and they're not making consoles and it's just where can you find Game Pass at? And there's a lot of gamers with outcries of and this makes sense, but it's if all my games are on a PlayStation, if all my Xbox games are on PlayStation, and they're still making an Xbox console, why would I need the Xbox console? Why would I want it? Why wouldn't I buy a PlayStation where I can play all their exclusives and have all my Xbox exclusives on one console? Which, makes perfectly logical sense. But basically, there's with all the rumor spiraling, Phil Spencer finally did come out of the woodworks today to make a very broad statement. I guess it might have been yesterday that he said it. He said, "We're listening and we hear you. We've been planning a business update event for next week where we look forward to sharing more details with you about our vision for the future of Xbox. Stay tuned."
I don't think that Phil Spencer has steered us wrong yet. I don't think he's done it. I think all he's done is be a huge success for Xbox. He seems as trustworthy as a CEO could be. You know what I mean? The dude's still, at the end of the day, I'm sure he's after quarter. But I think that we're approaching that era of cloud gaming and all that kind of thing where maybe the whole point is that no one is going to need hardware in the next decade or so. Maybe the whole thing will be streamed through a browser. Maybe it will all be so fast that won't matter. I'm gonna say that Phil, like I said, he hasn't crashed the boat. He hasn't steered us wrong yet. I think Phil Spencer, I believe in him. I believe in his vision for the Xbox. I want to see what he has to say.
That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I don't like to latch onto the rumors too much because I want to see what Phil says. I was looking at Ryan McCaffrey, who works for IGN, and he's been reporting on Xbox for a long time, and he's very knowledgeable about Xbox and Phil and just the ecosystem. He had a series of tweets that I always just think his insight's interesting. But with the news about the Indiana Jones and Starfield stuff, Ryan said, people left Xbox in droves last generation because Microsoft couldn't consistently get either a quantity or quality of exclusive games onto their platform. Their strategy now that they're finally getting those exclusives is to stop making them exclusive. And then he responds to his own tweet, because back in January with the Hi-Fi Rush news, he said, "I'm not sure how any Xbox fans could be mad about Hi-Fi Rush coming to Switch a full year later, especially when it continues to live on Xbox Game Pass, thus being a free, in quotes, game to Game Pass subscribers." And then he acknowledged his tweet from a month ago, and he says, "But there's a difference between the respectfully B-tier stuff like Hi-Fi Rush and the blockbuster games like Starfield and Indiana Jones." He then went on to say, Xbox Game Pass really is the console now, not the Series X or S. It's been trending this way for a while, but it's just interesting to see it actually happening. You still get that good deal and get it first on Xbox, but will it be enough to get people into your ecosystem? To be determined. And I think that's a good point too. He then responded to Phil Spencer's statement about the update that'll be coming next week. And he said, "I respect the heck out of Phil, but constructive criticism time. Their messaging is almost always reactive rather than proactive. Their brand is in a constant defensive state. It's been this way since 2013. It makes them look weak, honestly. Sony and Nintendo aren't like this. Anytime they take a step forward, there's seemingly a rake on the ground that smacks them in the face and causes them to stumble backwards. And it's always self-inflicted. Case in point, in 2024, we went from, yay, the developer direct was great, to this whole mess now." So anyways, he says, 2023 killer start to the year with the first developer direct and the shadow drop of Hi-Fi Rush until they failed to see the mess that was Redfall until it was way too late. That constant step forward / step back, as much as anything, is why I think Xbox fans are just exhausted. So, which I think kind of describes the feeling pretty well. But I don't know. There's just a lot in the air here, and there is a lot that you can speculate about.
I mean, there is a lot of speculation going on. If they are going to announce some sort of partnership with Nintendo, I mean, Nintendo Direct is rumored to be soon, maybe this week, which coincides with when they said they have news on the Xbox front. So who knows? Maybe that's the thing, but that's just speculation. A lot of what you're saying, I don't know, it is all over the place because some of it is just straight contradictory to itself. If they are going to bring Game Pass to PlayStation and Nintendo, then there wouldn't be exclusives that we get ahead of time that they don't get, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. And, by that token, like, if that does happen, of course, I would rather just have a PlayStation, have access to everything. I don't think any of this is going to happen until the next console cycle, because, I don't know, I haven't really seen a console give up in the middle of a console cycle before, you know what I mean? Like, just to drop their whole, what do you call it, ecosystem in the middle of things, I figure they would wait until the next console in the cycle to do something like this. This is a pretty big move.
Well, there's also conflicting information because apparently Xbox or Microsoft is on track to unveil their next generation console in 2026
Yeah,
or
see,
so.
this is
So
all
it sounds
just
like they're still working on something. I think that it's just this news has caused fans to spiral and theories to just it doesn't help that this news is out there and this general kind of paranoia. So every single Xbox site is now posting like these clickbait articles about what woulda, coulda, shoulda be happening.
I mean, Xbox fans,
scary.
which we all are the worst. So that's why this is happening.
Yeah, we're dramatic
So,
for sure.
We're dramatic. We're babies. It's it's
because we're always feeling like we're punching upwards.
It's the console of fragile masculinity for sure. So it's I don't know. Take it all with a grain of salt. I don't see any of this mattering until it's solidified. It is fun to speculate, but none of it makes sense when you really pick it apart. And like I was listening to you talk the whole time, none of it makes sense.
Doesn't make sense on paper.
It doesn't make sense on paper at all. Like
I agree.
They did just spend $69 billion.
To spend all that money to finally say we're getting all these exclusives.
And then unexclusive them. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
And not even 6 months later turn around and be like, okay, new plan. Now everybody gets them, which is like, bro, that was already the plan. Yeah, but we realized we could make more money if everybody gets them. Like, yeah, no crap. Like, yeah, that's why they were on all the consoles. Jerk-offs.
Yeah.
The whole thing's sort of silly. I see it, if you're looking at the numbers, right? You spend all that money and you don't want to now spend another absolute boatload of money developing another hardware and then shipping it out because I think they were losing money on the Series X anyways. But they're making their money back on controllers and headsets and stuff.
What I read was that they lose money on every single generation of console that they've ever sold.
So if you just spent all that money,
PlayStation does as well. Every Xbox or PlayStation console is sold at a loss. That is a fact across both systems. PlayStation just sells a lot more of them.
And so you just had this huge loss. You can't afford to sell at a loss again for another decade or so. So I know that they're trying to figure out how to stay afloat. They're looking at it and they're probably looking at their long projected numbers where if they don't get hundreds of thousands of more subscribers to Game Pass, then they'll tank. And the only way to do that is to get PlayStation to allow it.
I mean, I think the console wars are about to be moot anyways because I've been seeing everybody walking around with Apple goggles on anyways. So, like, I don't know. The consoles are going to be coming back in the future.
Yeah, but I think another thing that the Xbox fans that are melting down are maybe forgetting is that, let's not forget that Microsoft this past year, just recently, passed Apple as being the most valuable, highly valued company on the planet. It is worth trillions of dollars, and Microsoft is not hurting for money. So I understand that they do have to justify their purchases and spending, but let's be real
that
here.
Company, they're separated into different divisions and who controls what, and the Xbox division probably isn't looking great. I don't think they're gonna take from the software division and patch up the Xbox division. That they're just gonna tell the Xbox division to figure it out.
Probably not, but I do still feel like the Xbox is a strong brand.
It worked for Amazon.
In itself.
They supported their buying out and undercutting of everybody through their bookstores. So you never know. I don't know. I'm not an economist, so
I've still got faith in Phil Spencer. I want to see what he has to say next week.
I think you're right. I think that's all that we can do. But I am gonna take this time to make a bold, fresh prediction.
Ooh.
May I?
Yeah,
do I have both of your permission?
Yeah, are you going to predict what Phil Spencer is going to say? Because I'm excited to hear this.
I'm not going to predict what he's going to say. I'm going to predict something that I think could potentially happen, and I'll give you the background on this. When there were early rumors that Microsoft and Nintendo were in discussions, and there were rumors of Game Pass being on Switch at some point in the future, I always thought that was interesting and would work for a lot of games, but the Switch is an older console at this point, and a lot of those big budget Xbox games would not run on the Switch. It doesn't make much sense. And you don't want these Xbox games being brought down, to run on the Switch. So sometimes, those things just didn't really add up. But it's been very clear that Nintendo will likely be announcing and launching whatever the Switch successor is this year. That in 2024 they will announce the next Switch, whether it's Nintendo Switch 2, the Nintendo Super Switch, whatever fancy name you want to give it right now, while it's just in hypothetical land, while we're waiting to get it, get the real thing on paper. But
supposedly,
all signs point to
people are saying that the announcement's going to happen this next Direct, but maybe that's just wishful thinking.
It could, because I had seen some rumors that it could be coming. This new Switch could be coming sooner than we expect. As soon as August, September, October. I don't know, but my bold guess is going to be that the Nintendo Switch 2, whatever it is, the Nintendo Switch 2 will launch with Game Pass.
All right.
With Game Pass, it's a stronger console.
It's a good prediction because I honestly, it could go either way.
If it's truly a next gen console, a next gen version of the Switch that's more powerful and can support these games, say even in an Xbox Series S level, right? We could see. I think it could really happen. So I'm not feeling confident on this at all, but on a show where we do like to make bold predictions sometimes, and I feel like we haven't had any in a while. Last one I have is that Gary said Avowed will not come out this year. That's the last fresh prediction that was made on the show. I will say today, on February 6th, that the Nintendo Switch 2 will launch with Game Pass.
It's a good one.
That's all I got.
I like that.
I have some food for thought on that. Just a response to it. If something is on, some things are on Game Pass and then they're no longer on Game Pass, then you can go to the Xbox store and buy them. If you're on the Switch and something is no longer on Game Pass, do you think they'll have an Xbox store where you can go buy it?
That's a good question.
I would.
My assumption would be, because it's kind of the way it's supposed to be with Game Pass now, is that the true Xbox exclusives, quote unquote exclusives, will live on Game Pass and will not leave Game Pass. So now that being said, we know how it is in the digital realm.
You won't have to go buy Starfield. But things from other parties, if an Aliens game is on there for a month or two and then they take it, like Deep Rock Galactic's a great one. That's not an Xbox title, so that's not on Switch. So you play it on Game Pass, and then one day they take it off of Game Pass. will you be able to buy it in an Xbox store on Switch so that you can still play Xbox games on your Switch that are not Switch games, but you have to buy them through an Xbox store.
This does really throw a wrench because I think it's a really good point, right? Like if a movie is on Netflix but leaves Netflix, like you can still buy it on the Apple TV store, or you can still buy it somewhere. Games, it's a little different. My guess for that would be if you're playing Halo Combat Evolved, the original Halo, on your Switch through your Game Pass subscription, but say you are no longer going to subscribe to Game Pass and you want to play Halo on your Switch, my guess would be the only way to play it is if you subscribe to Game Pass. I don't think they would make it available in the store.
I think that's true, but that's still a console exclusive. I'm more talking about the third-party stuff that comes off of Game Pass. Would you lose the ability to play it forever on your Nintendo Switch?
I feel like the third-party stuff would probably be available to you on the Nintendo store.
On the Switch itself? That means a lot more developers will be having to develop for Switch.
That's true. I mean, it's also possible. I mean, so we have already seen that there's 2 instances of Game Pass anyways. There are different games on the PC Game Pass than there are on Xbox. Right. So maybe there'll be a Switch Game Pass that'll also have some changes. But
Smart.
That's probably whenever they announce new games coming to Game Pass, it does specify if it's console, PC, or cloud. So it could be potentially that the only games available on the Switch version of Game Pass would be cloud games that you are literally streaming through the Game Pass app, as opposed to downloading. Because it brings up a good point with what Gary was saying, like with, say, Halo, for example. Like if it's not in the store on the Switch, you can't download that game to the console, presumably, unless Game Pass somehow allows you to do so. Yeah, presumably, you would be streaming that game through the cloud.
We'll have a lot of these answers soon, and I'm sure we'll talk about it on either the next stream, and if not, before the end of the month, I think the 2 directs are supposed to happen. So we'll definitely be talking about this again.
Yeah,
come on.
We'll likely have updates as soon as. Yeah, definitely don't. We'll have updates as soon as next week. But yeah, it's just. There's a lot of speculation that can happen here, but I'm gonna take that opportunity to make the prediction like I did. So why not? Why not take a bold swing? Which I'm looking. It is fun to kind of revisit our predictions because there's some, like Jahan. You had said back in December, Baldur's Gate 3 will not come to Game Pass anytime in the immediate future, not before summer. I'm gonna guess you're still right on that one. We've already kind of highlighted it as you probably being right. But yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised to see Baldur's Gate come to Game Pass any day now.
That could happen too. I wouldn't be mad. Well, it'd be, I want more.
No one would be mad, and it really had its giant 15 minutes of fame, its explosive success, and it's starting to get quiet now. And it would be a great time to hit it on Game Pass and just keep it alive for a couple more months.
Yeah, I can't wait for DLC. But yeah. Well, should we move on to fresh movies of the week, Drew?
We can, because I think it's only me that has movies this week.
I haven't been watching movies.
These will be relatively quick updates. The first one.
Please tell me Argyle is good. Please tell me it's good.
I regret to inform you that it's not good.
Oh, it looked good.
Oh no.
Unfortunately, I am a Matthew Vaughn fan in general. First off, he directed X-Men First Class, which is probably my favorite of the X-Men movies. I like the first Kick-Ass movie. I like the first Kingsman movie. I like the second Kingsman movie less so. I'd say the only Matthew Vaughn movie that I've seen that I actively dislike is The King's Man, the third Kingsman movie and the prequel. I was not a big fan of. There's a movie called Stardust back in the day that I really liked. So in general, I like Matthew Vaughn.
Neil Gaiman book.
Yes,
Stardust is good. Stardust is a good movie.
It is good. It is good. So my thing with Matthew Vaughn is even if I don't like what's happening all the time, it's usually fun to watch and stylish. And a lot of times there's like excessive crude humor or violence or something of the sort. And that also keeps me interested. And Argyle, unfortunately, is PG-13 and really just can't decide what it wants to do, and it doesn't want to lean too far into any one thing. For those that don't know what this movie is about, it's about Bryce Dallas Howard plays a writer named Ellie Conway who's written a series of novels, spy novels, where the main character is named Argyle. And based on her writings, she gets kind of caught up in a real life spy caper. And throughout it, she's imagining Argyle, her character, kind of like alongside her, and what would Argyle do?
Played by Henry Cavill.
Played by Henry Cavill. And that's the thing, the marketing of this movie, it's like Henry Cavill and Dua Lipa and John Cena and Samuel L. Jackson and like all these big names. The leads of this movie are Bryce Dallas Howard and Sam Rockwell. Like they have far and away the most screen time here. They are the main characters of this movie, but they kind of get buried behind the other stars that are being promoted. And
so from the trailers, I thought it was a Bryce Dallas Howard starring movie where it was just going to follow her and everyone else would be cameos. So I would have thought right.
Okay, so you would have been on the right plane. I do. There's when I like Sam Rockwell a lot. I love Sam Rockwell. I'd say I watch him in anything. One of my favorite actors, honestly. And
little known fact is that Sam Rockwell and Edward Norton are the same guy. They're just playing each other.
When he shows up in this movie, he plays a spy in it, and he's like obviously not a conventional spy, and that's really one of the things that works. And it's one of the few things that works in this movie. I just feel like none of the action scenes really are that great, and none of the comedy really works, and it's not overly violent. It's not anything. It's just kind of nothing. And the worst part of it is that it just looks bad. The whole thing looks bad. It all looks like it's green screened. Nothing, the CG's not good. I don't know. I'm with you, Gary. I thought that this at least
that PG-13 is the worst way you can go with a movie. Either go PG or go R. PG-13 is a real cop out of a rating. I think it's maybe my least favorite kind of rating.
Yeah, in general, I try not to hold that against a movie. I'm like, yeah, I understand. You want to be PG-13. You want to reach more audience. I get that.
Sometimes you only want to say fuck once.
This one is it's like the fear of people thinking that in the MCU Deadpool was going to be rated PG-13. Like that would have been a really bad choice. And I think making this movie PG-13 and not leaning more into some of the things that Vaughn has had success with, like in the Kingsman series, I think it was a mistake. So yeah, it's just, I was very underwhelmed by this.
Is Argyle part of that Kingsman world? Is it part of that same lore?
Do you want me to spoil anything for you?
I mean, obviously the answer with that response, the answer must be yes. It must be at least associated in some way, which is cool.
Spoiler alert for Argyle. There is a mid-credits scene that is absolutely shoehorned into this to try to put this movie into the Kingsman universe. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't really tie in. It doesn't show anything existing. It just kind of leaves you scratching your head, and it absolutely feels like it was shoehorned in. So,
love it.
Yeah. I was already disappointed with the movie, and then that happened mid credits, and it just left me like wanting to pull my hair out. It very frustrating. So yeah, I went into it thinking it'll be fun at least, and it really wasn't even that.
You need to send the director a stern email with how you feel about his work, because you really did come in loving the guy, and I really think you could give him some constructive criticism to get out of his own ass.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
Once they get in there, man, it's really hard to get them out again. It's not.
Yeah, dude, that's the thing. That's the thing with LA is people will just let you get right up your own ass.
Yeah, once you get up your own ass, it's really hard to turn around.
People won't tell you that you're up your own ass out there. They like it.
The only other movie I had for this week in the Fresh Movies of the Week segment is a movie called ISS, which you guys know me. I like to go to the movies, and I go quite often.
Is it about the space one?
Or is it about
in-school
suspension?
It is about the International Space Station.
Okay.
And
I saw
this movie
a
came out in
video
theaters.
on the internet, and it was an astronaut, and he was washing his hair on the International Space Station, and it was just a glob of shampoo on his head. And whenever he moved his head, it just moved around like a glob. It was really dope.
Thank you.
Great. That was a great sidebar, Gary. Thank you for that.
Gary sidebar.
There was a movie that came out in theaters called ISS. And even when I saw it was playing at my local theater, I was like, I have not heard of this movie or seen a trailer for it. I'm going to go see it.
Is this the one where the Russians and the Americans are on the ISS and then like nuclear war breaks out? Yeah.
Yes.
This movie looks stupid.
Well, to me, on paper, reading that description of like, you know, the Russians and the U.S. are on the International Space Station when a nuclear war breaks out on Earth, and then both groups, the Americans and the Russians, are given instructions to take control of the space station at any cost. I'm like, okay, that sounds fun, and it stars Ariana DeBose is in this, recent Oscar winner. For West Side Story. She's also the voice of Asha in Wish, the Disney animated movie that bombed this winter. She's the star of this movie, and I understand why this got dumped in theaters in the middle of January. Yeah, this is a pure dumpuary movie. It's not terrible by any means. Like, it could have been way worse. It's just really not very memorable.
I could already make it better. It sounded so good, and then it didn't. Because, like, 4 scientists take the station at all costs. That's nothing. Those guys aren't going to kill each other. They're scientists. They're smarter than that. What would be better is if the planet was destroyed by the nuclear fallout, and then the scientists came back down to Earth, and, you know, they couldn't barely walk because they'd been in space so long and they didn't have food, and they were the last 4 survivors was the people from the ISS. That would have been a way better movie.
I think that is a movie, actually, or something along those lines. I think there is something that I've heard of where they're
dope.
Yeah, I would watch that.
This movie is also, there's only 6 people in the cast. It all takes place on this small, compact space station, so it feels very like small in scope in a way, even though it's in space. I'll say one positive about it is there's an actor in this movie, plays one of the Russians. His name's Pilu Aspak, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. But what you guys would maybe know him most as, he plays Euron Greyjoy in Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Theon's horrendous brother, one of the better villains that appears in the latter seasons of Game of Thrones. Very. Yes. Oh, uncle. You're right. Excuse me. His uncle. That's right. Yes. It is his uncle. A very, very memorable bad guy in the. He's only in 9 episodes of Game of Thrones, but made a big impression, at least on me, during that time. He also is in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom briefly, the most recent Aquaman movie. But he's, typically a villain character. That's what his reputation is now. And so he's in this movie as one of the Russians, and I feel like it uses his typecasting well. And that's the only thing I'll say about it. So this is absolutely a movie that had it dropped on Netflix as a Netflix original, I would have watched it and been like, dang, that was pretty good for a Netflix original. But for a theatrical release that came out in the middle of January with like barely any fanfare or marketing behind it, it's like, what is this? Like, why is this even here? It's very strange. So that's it. That's ISS. That's all for my fresh
Oh, he was the crazy boat captain guy. That's which guy he was.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I was trying to remember which one of those twisted Greyjoys he was, because they were all twisted bad guys, and they could all be typecast as twisted bad guys.
That's fair. Totally fair.
So that brings us to Fresh TV of the Week.
TV. I've been on it, man. I have been deep.
Open it up for us, Gary. Let us in. Let us in your world. Let us in your life.
So, look, we've talked about this. We talk about it every a quarter. Sometimes I just get into reality shows and I've got to watch them. I've just got to get them. I've got to watch them, and then I'm done. I'm done for a few months. I probably won't watch anymore till like August or something. But Drew talked about The Traitors, and it's on Peacock, and it's got Alan Cumming as the host. He played Nightcrawler in the live-action X-Men movies, and he also played Professor Floop in the Spy Kids movies. So I've always been an Alan Cumming fan, like my whole life. I think that he's super underrated, criminally underrated, and he's just kind of a that guy. But The Traitors takes place, I think, in Scotland. It takes place in a castle. Yeah, they say it's Scotland. I just didn't research if it really was or not. And he's super Scottish, and Drew said that he bathes in the river of ham because he hams it up so much as a host. Those are Drew's exact words. And he couldn't be any more right. As a host, it's hilarious. He's always like looking at the camera with like snide little smiles, like, I guess who's going to die tonight? And then like turn and look, it's just like just for you. And he's got the most ridiculous outfits and fantastic fashion, and fucking like comes in wearing like a diagonal fucking top hat if he's like with the Traitors. Like he looks like a little snidely evil guy. The Traitors is... The first season I really liked. I've started the second season, but the difference is the second season is all reality stars. Everybody is from something or is a somebody. But the first season is half reality stars and half normal people. So there are some sleepers and you don't know what to expect and you don't know who they are. And I thought that worked out really well. The second season's all reality stars, and I don't watch stuff like The Challenge or Real Housewives, so some of the characters are lost on me. But it's still a fun show. The premise of the show is there are, I would guess, 20, maybe 15-ish people at the beginning. And
there's a lot.
There's a lot of people in the first episode, and 3 people are chosen secretly as traitors. And then every night they get to kill one person. And every night there's a round table where the round table chooses who to banish. And so usually they banish a faithful and then another faithful gets killed that night. So it is just an exciting show to watch the faithfuls just get absolutely torn apart. And if the faithfuls win, they split the money. If the traitors win, they split the money. So it's a fun show. The premise is fun. It's not too... doesn't have too much of the trashy reality show relationships or bickering or alcoholism or sex or any of that stuff. It's just a good, fun show. And I'm already on season 2.
Do the traitors know who they are? Who each other are?
Yes, the traitors meet in the night, and so they know who each other are. But there are twists because it's a reality show. So I don't want to spoil all the twists, but yes, the traitors, for the most part, they know who each other are. And then season 2 added a really cool twist where in season 1 you kill somebody during the night and they get a letter delivered to them that says they're dead. You can't like catch a killer in the night or anything. But in season 2 they add some more twists where the most recent one I watched was episode 2, and they had to go into the library, find a book, and take a chalice out of the book, and then make somebody drink from the poisoned chalice, and that person would die. And they had to do it right in front of like everybody in plain sight, but say nothing and don't get caught. And so that is an awesome twist to me, is having to kill people right there in broad daylight doing a secret task.
Because if you go over the top trying to offer this chalice to people and really trying to get people to drink it, they're going to be onto your scent that you're probably a traitor, and I don't think I should be doing what you're asking me to. So yeah, there's a fine line of like the acting and strategy that's kind of going in the show. And I think the to your point, Jahan, asking if the traitors know who each other are. Yes, and they do, for the most part, from what I've seen, work together, but there are circumstances where they can turn on each other, which is interesting.
There's nothing stopping a traitor from voting another traitor out at the round tables when they talk about who's a traitor, but you do swear when you become a traitor not to expose any other traitors. But if somebody's hot and everybody's looking at them, then you want to look like a faithful too. So you want to vote with the faithfuls. So if they're voting a traitor out, then you damn well better vote that traitor out, or else they're going to be hot that you're not voting for a traitor. So yeah, the show it's intense, man. It's a really fun show.
Sounds pretty fun.
That it's edited in such a perfect way where right at the end of the episode, you're like, oh, I gotta watch the first 10 minutes of the next one. Because it's just like, who did they kill? They talk about who they're going to kill. and then the credits roll. And you're like, well, now I got to go to the next episode and see who doesn't walk into breakfast this morning. And so you have to watch the whole breakfast scene and watch everybody come in like 2 by 2 by 2 until you figure out who dies. It's just absolutely wonderful. I recommend The Traitors. Drew, that was a hot pick. Thank you for putting that on my radar.
I'm really glad you liked it. When you said that you had finished the first season in our chat, I was like, that means he must have liked it because he flew through it. So I was very excited that
and I'll be caught up with
it.
season 2 in no time. I'm already on episode 2, and I think there's only 6 out right now.
There are 6. So the 7th one will be out on Thursday.
And I did tell you guys that when it happens, when it rains, it pours. You know, when I'm watching reality shows, I'm watching reality shows. And even now, there's probably another one on my radar that I'll watch between now and next week. But let me talk about The Trust real quick. This one's on Netflix, and I told Drew to watch this one as well. This one,
and I do plan to. I just haven't had a chance to since you recommended it, but I do want to check it out.
This one's not as recommendable as The Traitors. I think The Traitors almost has like a game show kind of vibe. It's almost not a reality show. It's almost a game show. There's something really fun about it. The Trust is more of a reality show. They all live in one big house and everyone's constantly lying and backstabbing. It's still not alcohol-fueled trashy garbage, which is really great. I don't like watching that kind of stuff. But the way The Trust works is there are 12 people, and if you agree not to vote anyone out, everybody stays. But if even one person gets one vote, they're out. And so there's this really strong core of people who believe we can just not vote. All of us can just go down there and not vote and we will win. And there's this really strong core group of people who are like, we need to eliminate all of them. They're liars. They're toxic. You can't trust them. And so it has that reality show thing where it's just like, come on, guys, you could really just share the money. You could all just work together. But there's a ton of backstabbing and lying. And by the end of the show, a lot of people have, they come to an agreement. They come to a trust of who's going to be the final 5, and it's a good time. I liked The Trust. I recommend it to people who like reality shows, where The Traitors I recommend to people who just like game shows and reality shows or whatever. The Traitors is great. The Trust is good. In like day 1, it's like they reveal a bunch of secrets, but no one has to say what their secret is. And one kid is secretly a millionaire, and he can't stop talking about it. He can't just shut up. And everyone else there came from a hard life, and so you just get to see his sense of entitlement, where he's like, everyone deserves to be here and we all deserve to split that money, and I had to work hard too. And everyone's just like, you rich little shit. So it's good show. I recommend The Trust. It's on Netflix. You guys probably have it anyways. And finally, I told you guys I've been hot on that TV life. Finally, Delicious Dungeon. New episode comes out every Thursday. I've been telling you guys to watch it. I'm still telling you guys to watch it. It's especially for anybody who likes Dungeons and Dragons. It's not just an anime, and it's certainly not a stereotypical anime. It's kind of a cooking show, which is really funny because they're cooking bugs. So like some of what they're saying makes sense, and some of it is just dungeon gibberish. So I think there's really something to enjoy for D&D fans there. If you've ever wondered, could you eat that monster? Could you eat a cockatrice?
It's all about eating monsters, yeah.
And the monsters are generally like monsters you've heard of before, like sentient suits of armor. Like, can you eat a suit of armor? So they tackle some funny stuff. They're like farming.
I told you to watch this.
No. I had been watching it already.
Okay, I think this is one of the ones we were just watching at the same time.
This is one of the ones we were both watching, yeah.
Because
we got in. This was one where like I let it sit there for a week, and I was like, that really does look good. And it's way better than I thought it would be. I don't know if it's developed here in America. I don't know if it's a Japanese anime, but there's something about it that just feels new. It feels well produced, and it feels new. It just feels like a good product. I don't know what else to say.
The past few years of anime, I don't know, anime has just been on this uptrend where it's becoming new. They're learning new tricks. It's not all the same. They're not recycling things. They're trying stuff, and it's a golden age for anime, in my opinion.
Have you been watching Delicious in Dungeon, Jahan? Have you stayed up to date?
I haven't stayed up to date, but I intend to.
I was texting Zach back and forth and told him that he would be the main character, that'd be the guy he's playing, and you are the dwarf. Like, no doubt, 100% you're the dwarf.
I'm the dwarf.
The guy just, oh yeah, the more you watch it, you'll see what I mean. He has like game master knowledge. He just knows. He knows it. He knows how to do all of it.
Knows all the stuff.
It's dope, man. I don't think you've gotten to the part where they're farming the elementals.
No.
But
Sounds good.
that's when you're like, oh damn, this dude is next level. I recommend Delicious in Dungeon. I know that we have tabletop fans and D&D fans out there. Just give it a watch. I swear you'll be sold if you're not sold in the first episode, then don't watch it. You will be sold. I think they're only like 20 minutes long. They're easy to watch. Check it out. It's on Netflix. Delicious in Dungeon. And that's it for me.
Little bite-sized episodes. Yeah.
They are. That's it for me for Fresh TV this week.
I haven't been watching as much, but I have seen a couple new shows. I'll start off He-Man Revolution. It is a continuation of Kevin Smith's run of animated He-Man shows. This next part deals with Prince Adam becoming King Adam through events. It has they really start diving into some of the deeper lore of Eternia and the magic, the three kinds of magic that were there. They start getting into that deeper lore, and that's what I always like to see. I really appreciate that Kevin Smith is going for it. You know, he's not so afraid to touch this material that he's afraid to change it. Like, he is doing what he wants with it, and it's really good. If you like He-Man, it is a great show. So far from what I've seen, this is just as good as the previous couple seasons. It's really cool, man. It's got some cool fight scenes. It's got some cool magic. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen anything that's not safe for kids necessarily. They deal with a bit of death and stuff, but
Kevin Smith is a nerd god, and every Civil War statue that they take down, they should replace with statues of Kevin Smith all across our nation.
That'd be pretty great. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan too. I love pretty much everything he does. Even Tusk. Tusk was disturbing.
I like Tusk.
It was so disturbing, but yeah. He-Man's great. Check it out. Check it out. It's on Netflix. And then I started watching the new the Mr. and Mrs. Smith reboot show.
I hated that movie.
Yeah.
I just thought that movie was absolute dog crap, and so I never would have asked for a show. And then I saw Donald Glover was attached.
Donald Glover is one of the leads. I forget the girl's name, but she's from Pen 15, if you saw that show. She's very good in this. They're both very good in this. I feel like they have a lot of chemistry. The actors have a lot of chemistry with each other. This show is not the movie. This is I don't know, I guess dramedy. It does have some humor to it. It does seem to be a little bit more serious. This is a spy show, and it's very interesting the way things go. They are masquerading as a couple in order to maintain a cover and to do spy shit for a mysterious organization. The first episode's great. It has some slow parts. They're not so worried about keeping the action pumping that they, lose the characters. They are exploring the characters. They're having boring moments where they're sharing significant glances and conversations, which I think is a good thing. It's not nonstop action. There's a lot going on here. I think this show's very good. I really liked what I saw about it. I recommend this show to everybody. I think it's on Prime? Is that what
it is on Prime?
It's on Prime.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it.
It's very good. Like I don't know, man. As soon as I saw Donald Glover and I forget the girl's name, but she
the female's lead it's Maya Erskine.
Maya Erskine, yeah. I recognized her, and I think she's gonna make it big. I think she's gonna be a big name because she's really good in this.
Worth noting,
she was
actually
hilarious in Pen 15. Also,
she was.
Just nailed it.
Yeah, and
she
she's
voices
fantastic in this.
Mizu, the lead of Blue Eye Samurai, a show that you both
Oh,
raved about.
really? That's
Mhm.
surprising.
Sick.
That's awesome.
Sick. I never would have guessed.
Never would have guessed. Yeah, but she's Japanese in real life, so I know her character in Mr. and Mrs. Smith is at least. So it's interesting.
Well,
I just realized that, yeah. So Blue Eye Samurai is about being half Japanese, half white, and that's what she is. So that's kind of interesting. That's really good casting, I guess. I don't know, just something to throw out there.
well, speaking of interesting casting and being what the character is, I finally
yeah?
caught up on Echo, the Disney Plus Marvel Cinematic Universe series. Character that was introduced in the Hawkeye series, Echo. Both of y'all watched Echo, right? Am I
I
making
haven't
that up?
finished it. No.
No, I don't have Disney Plus right now.
Okay. Well, I mean, ultimately, Gary, I don't think you're really missing anything.
No, that's what it seems like. If it would have been some kind of huge movement, I would have heard about it by now.
Yeah, there's some okay action scenes and some interesting things here, but ultimately, this really feels like, uh, you know, I'm not sitting here that everything in the MCU, especially the TV shows like this, that everything has to tie into the overall universe. But this truly feels like it has no consequences, really, in the grand scheme of things. Like, I don't know how Echo fits into the universe at large. It was interesting learning more about the character and where the name Echo actually comes from and what the origin of that means. But there's a lot of downtime in this show, a lot of slower moments, and ultimately at the end of the day, it's any time that Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin is on screen that this show has my attention. That he is great as usual. There's some okay action scenes in this, but ultimately I found the whole thing pretty underwhelming. But I do think the lead, which I don't have it in front of me, the lead actress's name. But I do think she is really good, especially considering everything, what this character means and for representation as far as Native American characters, as far as deaf characters, as far as amputees, and like all that inclusivity. I think there's some really really cool things here. So I don't want to downplay any of that. Alakwa Cox is the actress's name. But at the end of the day, I just, as far as the actual story and where this fits in, I didn't think it was that interesting. So,
Yeah. I've been kind of off the Marvel train lately for political reasons I'm not going to get into, but this I mean, the reason why this doesn't fit into the MCU is because the MCU has no street level stories like at all.
Mhm.
Without the Defenders, the Netflix shows, they have nothing of this scale going on. So like if you're not looking for Infinity Stones or trying to save the galaxy, you don't have a spot in the MCU currently, and that's
Which
a
is
shame.
damn
It's a shame.
right. Oh man, I'm right there with you.
Right
Those
there
are
with
my
you, man.
favorite stories. Are the street level stories, and they
Yeah.
can only tie into a few characters. You can only tie into Hawkeye. You can only tie into Spider-Man. But you can use so many other characters to do it, like Luke Cage and Iron Fist and Daredevil, the Defenders that they had. There's Punisher. You know, those characters are there to tell these street level stories. But yeah, when you pull the rug out from under it and you cancel all of it, and you only keep some of the stories you've been telling, it just puts the fans in a really weird spot, and we're confused of what's real and what's not real. And like you said, there are no consequences because there is no Luke Cage or Punisher or Daredevil, and they're not going to bring Spider-Man into this story. There's just why would they? You know, yeah, they had all the ammunition they needed to make this great about 8 years ago, and that ship has sailed.
Correct. Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah. Drew, is that all for Fresh TV this week?
It is. Otherwise, I've been watching some other things, but it's stuff I've mentioned. Like I'm continuing to watch The Traders and some other reality shows, but that was the main new entry I had.
Yeah, I
Otherwise,
am watching.
we can move on to fresh games.
I was
if
watching
you're
other
ready.
stuff, but nothing worth really. I'd finished my Whedonverse rewatch of Buffy, Angel, and even Firefly, but you know, whatever. Don't need to talk about that. And then now I'm watching Steven Universe, so I'm on a bit of a little retro kick, I guess.
Yeah, I'm still watching the new season of True Detective. I finally am jumping back into The Curse because that series ended, and I want to see where it goes because that was a weird one. But that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, I've talked about it a little bit. I'll wait until it's done and when I can talk about the whole thing.
It turns
in
out
completion.
I was exactly right about what The Curse was.
Did you finish The Curse?
I think I have one episode left, but once I got to that point, I started reading reviews and stuff online that were just saying exactly what I had been telling you guys for weeks, what I thought it was. I went and read that it was other people had the same opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's the New Mexico story. It's not a big problem in Houston, but one of the huge problems in New Mexico is no one can afford the real estate. They can't afford to live in their neighborhoods, and rich white people come in and buy everything and say we're making these eco-friendly homes and we're so good for the neighborhood. And they just, continue to gentrify and just totally screw up the entire culture and the economy. They say they're going to create jobs and then they don't. It's the story of what's happening in this state, and I'm sure a lot of other states and small cities around the nation. And it really is just an anti-comedy about rich white people ruining the neighborhood. And it's hard to watch.
I believe that takes us into fresh games. I don't have anything, so you guys take it away.
Wow, and this is usually your section to take the lead on.
I'm playing old games again. Right now. I'm really into XCOM, and like me and Gary have been fucking it up on Overwatch, and like I haven't really been playing a lot of new stuff to talk about. I am still gaming heavily.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Gary, do you want to take the lead on this one then?
Yeah, sure. My games aren't necessarily new. I actually got both of my games on sale. One was $10 and the other one was $30. So I was just watching the sales, found some stuff I wanted. One of the guys that we play with all the time, Infamous, he is a huge One Piece fan. He's a huge Dynasty Warriors fan. He's been telling me to get this One Piece Pirate Warriors game for a long time so we could play it together. And I, as you know, I love Dynasty Warriors. I always have. And there have been some real bombs along the way. Like Dynasty Warriors 9 was terrible. Shouldn't have happened, and I want my money back. But One Piece Pirate Warriors, now that I watched the One Piece Netflix and I watched a little bit of the anime, well, now I wanted to learn more about One Piece. And I don't want to sit down and watch 200 episodes or whatever. So I played this game. 1,000 episodes. So I played this game. And it gets you straight through story after story after story, gets you through all these arcs super fast. Of course, it doesn't touch on everything, but it really gives you the gist of the story through like 6 seasons or through 6 different island arcs. Has tons of playable characters. Everybody plays in different styles like you would expect in a Dynasty Warriors game. I really enjoyed it. If you like One Piece or Dynasty Warriors games, wait for this one to go on sale. $10 was an amazing price for it. I've had a ton of fun with it. I beat the entire story mode. I started leveling up characters and unlocking their max level skills and stuff where you have to play special missions. Been playing online with the homies. Been trying to knock out every single like gallery mission where you unlock everything in the game. I'm probably going to 100% One Piece Pirate Warriors. It scratches all the itches for me as a Dynasty Warriors guy and a guy who likes One Piece. It's great. 10 out of 10 for me. And went and read the reviews, and a bunch of the One Piece fans showed up and said, this is the best One Piece game that exists.
Hell yeah.
Otherwise, I picked up Attack on Titan 2, which I was wondering. I wanted to play more Warriors games, right? So I went to Koei Tecmo, that's who makes the Warriors series, and was looking at what they have for Xbox, and sure enough, Attack on Titan 2 was on sale, half off. I went to go look at the reviews, and everybody was saying, this game's awesome. It's like Spider-Man, except you fight Titans. And I was like, hold on, guys. Nothing is like Spider-Man. Let's calm down. But there really is a Spider-Man gameplay-esque to it. The Attack on Titan 2 is all about movement. It's not about hitting X a whole lot like Dynasty Warriors and hitting Y at the right time to do a big combo. It's not about unleashing a giant fireball. It's like 12-on-1 where you and a bunch of NPCs are zipping around one Titan and you're trying to get in the right spot in the air with the right amount of speed and the right angle to come down in one hit. If you don't have enough speed, you won't do any damage, and it'll just pop up on your screen and say, not enough speed. So you know you got to really get swinging and get your arc in to take them down. You start as a cadet, and the game is straight up like, you should play on easy. I'm just letting you know that you should start this game on easy. And I was like, don't tell me what to do, game. And so when you start as a cadet, you have the worst weapons, you have the worst rig, you have no skills, and there are missions that took me like 45 minutes to kill like 10 Titans. I mean, it just took forever. I got far enough in the game now, I'm probably 3 or 4 hours in, where I've joined the Scout Brigade. Now I've got some upgraded weapons. Now I've got some upgraded omnidirectional gear, and now I can one-hit just Titans left and right, just zipping around one-hitting Titans. The game starts with Season 1. It starts in the city. It starts with the siege, with all of that. You're just one of the cadets that was along for the ride. And from what I've read, it goes all the way into Season 3. So I'm excited to experience this anime the same way that I experienced One Piece, which is I don't have to sit down and watch all the episodes. I can play through a bunch of this stuff and then watch a bunch of the big cutscenes at pivotal moments to learn what's really going on. So really stoked on those two games. I've had a great week of gaming. Neither one of those is new, but I loved them both. That's One Piece, Pirate Warriors, and Attack on Titan 2, both on Xbox.
Those are good picks.
Awesome. I'm actually playing a lot of games simultaneously too. I typically will choose one to dive into, then when I'm done, move on to another. But I've been kind of jumping back and forth between a few, some of which I've talked about in the past, like the new Prince of Persia game and Alan Wake Remastered. And I'm still kind of playing those here and there. But the two new ones that I wanted to shout out that I've been playing a little bit is, first off, the next game in the Final Fantasy VII remake series is coming out in February. It's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So that's the second game in the Final Fantasy VII remake saga. Which I played the first Final Fantasy VII remake game when it came out. Really, really enjoyed it. But they released a extra chapter, like a DLC chapter, in Final Fantasy VII Intergrade, which is the PS5 update. And this intermission segment is an add-on where you play as Yuffie, who's a main, a big character in the original Final Fantasy VII game. So it's to see what Yuffie's been doing and play as her a little bit. So I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Intergrade in preparation for Rebirth, which will be out at the end of February. And
I like that you've been playing as Yuffie and I've been playing as Luffy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's funny. That's good. That's good. I also was just having the desire, which I know I have, like Baldur's Gate 3, and I have this, plenty of games to jump into, but I just was really getting the hankering to jump into a big JRPG, like a really deep one, that I hadn't played before. And I've owned Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition for the Switch for a while, but I just have been setting it aside for a rainy day. This is a Nintendo exclusive JRPG series, and so I started up Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, and it is scratching that itch for me. This is not a new game. I think it was originally for the I want to say for the Wii, and then they made it for the 3DS, and then they made a Definitive Edition port for the Switch. And it's really fun, and you play as Shulk is the main character, who you may know because I believe he is in the most recent Super Smash Brothers game.
In Smash Brothers, yeah.
Yeah, that's that dude where you can make him wear a bathing suit, right? And he's got a big old sword.
Yeah.
Yes, and his sword can kind of transform into different forms depending on what you're doing. And
I don't like that guy, but I know that guy.
Yeah, my brother-in-law is a huge Xenoblade fan. And I played it a little bit. It's an interesting. It's different. It's different than most JRPGs in the way like you're kind of moving in real time while turn-based stuff's going on, which is interesting. It's a really cool way to do combat.
The gameplay kind of reminds me actually of the original Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, where like you're moving around and you choose what you're going to do, and like you kind of have it almost like a backlog of like, these are the moves I've selected, and then you let them play out. It's kind of like that, a little bit more in real time, but yeah, it's like you have a selection of your moves to do, and you do them when you can, but you're still moving your character around in real time while you're choosing these things. So I really like the combat. It's deep. There's a lot of side quests, though. There's like a lot of kind of nonsense quests, very grindy quests that you can do. But I really like the combat and I like the world building, and the story's been enough to push me through. So I've actually put in probably about 20 hours into that so far, and I've like barely scratched the surface. And there's 2 more Xenoblade Chronicles games on the Switch that I'll have to try in the future, because 2 and 3 have both been very positively reviewed. But I think it's an anthology series. Yeah, the third one I think just came out in 2023.
Yeah.
I did forget to say that in the Attack on Titan game, you have to there's a whole base building mechanic where you can build either artillery towers or supply towers and stuff, and you can run out of gas for your omnidirectional equipment, so your swings are way slower. You can't double jump, and then your blades, and just like in the show and in the manga, your blades will break, and they're almost, the way they look is like X-Acto knives, like sections are meant to break off. And so you have to refill your blades. So a whole key aspect of the game is this sort of base building where you need to have either mines so that you get more materials at the end of the fight, or outposts that will shoot at Titans or resupply bases. And you have to zip around back and forth in between all of that combat too. So it's just an interesting extra mechanic to the game. It's almost a movement base building game. Just something different that's a lot of fun. Yeah. And from the guys that made Dynasty Warriors, I expected a Dynasty Warriors game, and it's not what I got, and I love it. Sorry.
No, you're good. I think I pretty much said everything I wanted to about Xenoblade Chronicles anyway. I'm still going through it. So I have a feeling, though, this is like an 80-hour game, or plus. It's a long one.
I feel like games have just been hot lately, man. I feel like the game industry is not letting us down this past year, and because I have a bunch of stuff I want to play too. It's all there. I feel
unless you were really looking forward to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which is getting kind of torn apart out there.
Yeah, it doesn't look very good. But yeah, I guess that brings us to our fresh picks of the week. I guess I'll open up my fresh pick. Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Amazon Prime. Check it out. It is a great spy show starring Donald Glover.
I think Thomas said that would have been his fresh pick also. He was talking about this show recently and how great it was. I think he watched the entire season. I think he binged.
He did. I think he said he watched the whole series over the weekend.
It's one of the better shows I've seen lately. It's engaging, it's entertaining, it's interesting, there's intrigue, there's romance, I don't know, man, it's got it all. There's it really is a good show.
Mine is going to be The Traitors Season 1. Even though Season 2 is current and coming out, I think it's really more geared towards people who watch reality shows and know who these stars are, and they know their history and their expectations. I really liked Season 1 because it was a lot more nobodies and sort of smaller reality stars. And I really liked it. I like Trader Season 1. It's on Peacock. I think it's, like I said earlier, more of a game show than a reality show. Not quite as trashy as a reality show, but just as much deceit and backstabbing. I recommend Trader Season 1. You should probably know after the first episode whether you want to get into it or not. I want to say these episodes do run pretty long, though, close to 40 minutes or so.
Yeah, in Season 2, they're like closer to a full hour, I think, for all the episodes. But it's good. It's good. I'm glad it's your fresh pick. It was my fresh pick on our last episode.
I had a hard time, too, man. I was looking at my list for the week, and I was thinking, do people need to spend money on One Piece Pirate Warriors? Do they need to spend money on Attack on Titan? They should probably watch The Traitor Season 1 is what they should really do. That's really what I recommend to the people.
And my fresh pick of the week, it's kind of a cheat because it's a movie, but I didn't talk about it in my fresh movies of the week because I was trying to keep those to like more newer release things. But I did catch up on 1987's Broadcast News, directed by James L. Brooks. And this is a movie that has always been very well regarded, and it was nominated for Best Picture back in the 1988 Academy Awards. And it's just one that I haven't caught over the years. And I worked in broadcast news for a while, so it was even more surprising. So that I hadn't watched it, and I absolutely loved it. And it's been a while since I've seen an older movie that immediately rose to like, this is a top 10 all time for me movie, and that's what broadcast news was for me. So, and especially in a time where news is still changing and in a state of flux and constantly evolving, I think that this movie really captures an interesting time, but still still speaks to the present in a way. So if you haven't seen broadcast news, I highly recommend it. That was my first pick of the week.
Even heard of broadcast news? Did you watch it on like a streaming thing, or did you have to go out of your way to get it?
It probably is streaming somewhere, but I own the Criterion Blu-ray, and so I watched it on physical disc.
That's what I assumed.
Very good. Those are our fresh picks of the week, and this has been Fresh Out the Podcast. Thanks everyone for listening. This was a fun one, and I hope that we can soon talk more about the Nintendo Switch's new console and the Xbox news upcoming. So stay tuned for that. Coming to you in the future. I have been the board game guru and game master extraordinaire, Jahananan.
It's me, Casualty CDG, co-host of Fresh Out the Podcast. This is episode 117 episodes. I'm also the co-host of Fresh Out the Box. That's where me and Jahan and our friends play tabletop role-playing games. We're just playing make-believe, and we're having adventures. We're having a good time. We're laughing, we're crying. Sometimes we accidentally make an accident in our pants, and we have to go on break.
I am the professional media and movie mastermind, the Fun House, Drew Munhausen, and thank you so much for tuning in to episode 117 of Fresh Out the Podcast. I'm going to go get me some allergy medicine here soon.
Stay fresh.